This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions and answer them in video format. Ton of questions to get into, so let's just start with one. My guy Rixler says, can CEDRIC TILLMAN step up to be a big role in the offense? I'm torn on this because part of me feels like the issues that CEDRIC TILLMAN had last year are much bigger issues than just being a rookie. And the reason I say that is not because it can't be fixed or anything like that, but the sense of urgency for those issues he had last year to be fixed are not usually felt in somebody in their second year. When you cannot be trusted to check when your quarterback gets to a check, when you cannot be trusted to be where you're supposed to be as a wide receiver, there's only but so much of that can go on in one place before it becomes almost impossible for you to succeed in that place. We saw this with Joe Flacco. It took like 3 games for him to get tired of CEDRIC, or at least for it to appear as if he got tired of CEDRIC TILLMAN. And then we saw less of CEDRIC TILLMAN, him being in the wrong spot, him not running the right route, him not running the right route the right way, or whatever it was. There was clearly some friction with CEDRIC TILLMAN in this offense all year. Now, that could all be fixed with new offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey, and maybe that's something that he'll be tasked with fixing. Maybe it doesn't, right? I don't know what his issues were, why he wasn't consistently in the right place. I don't know if that was a transitioning to the NFL thing, because maybe in that Josh Heupel offense at the University of Tennessee, it's not something that prepares you for what the Browns like to run on this side, or at least running the routes in the way that the Browns like them to be ran. And maybe it was a bigger learning curve than what we appear to see from the outside looking in, because it's also been like a couple of rookie wide receivers that they've had that have struggled to come along, and it's taken them a little bit longer than expected. So maybe that learning curve is steeper than what we think. But there's also a balance of learning curve in how much that player has frustrated the starting quarterback. And I have seen Watson be frustrated with him. I have seen Flacco be frustrated with him. And I've seen Stefanski be frustrated with CEDRIC. And you only have so many times for wide receivers to do that before it becomes a situation where everybody's just kind of giving up on the ideal of it working. So I do wonder about that. I do worry about that, but that is something that we're going to find out during camp and OTAs. And if I were CEDRIC TILLMAN, I would do everything I can to make sure I have as little of those problems as possible. Jack Smith says, if you can take an educated guess on the future Cleveland Browns Stadium now that it has about 176 acres next to Hopkins International Airport, does Cleveland Browns Stadium get rebuilt on the Hopkins site, or do we build a stadium near the current site? And is this the purchased way of him giving the city pressure? I don't really buy the whole narrative that he's trying to pressure the city into anything. I think this is a little bit more simple than what people are making it out to be. Jimmy Haslam has 2 options, right? Keep the stadium where it is in downtown Cleveland. And in order to keep the stadium where it is, in order for the Browns to play in downtown, what has to happen, unless you want the team to go away for a couple of years, either be Columbus or somewhere else, what has to happen is that you have to renovate the old stadium heavily. Talking about like $1 billion renovation, And you have to do that in a way to where the stadium can stay open during the season during these renovations. Now, it's been done before. The Browns did a big renovation, I think in 2014, and kept the stadium open. So it's not something that's not been done before, right? But in order to keep the stadium where it is, it would require basically trying to build a new stadium while keeping that stadium functional. It would be very expensive. And the value for Jimmy Haslam's dollar would probably not be that great, because a lot of it would just be trying to keep the state, like, it wouldn't be the most efficient way money wise to build a new stadium or renovate a stadium. It might not be cost effective to do it that way. But you do keep the stadium in the same spot. You keep it downtown, and you probably get a healthy amount of help from the city when you have the stadium in downtown, because the city's invested. Now, none of this means that the Browns are ever going to move. I don't think they ever are going to move, because the Browns are too profitable of a franchise, and they're profitable because they're in Cleveland. The Browns being in Cleveland makes their brand popular, right? If they were in like Dallas, it wouldn't be the same thing. So, all of that being said, I think this is about him picking between two options. You can renovate the old stadium, build a land bridge. Maybe you see there's more economic opportunities there by building and developing the lakefront, and maybe that becomes a big thing for the city of Cleveland. And that's a way of getting revenue outside of the football season for that land, is by developing the lakefront, putting storefronts there, putting businesses there, and maybe that is enough to kind of make up for the opportunity cost that you're not going to have by not having a dome. I think the other option for the Haslams is building a new stadium, more than likely a new dome stadium, in that large parcel of land that they just bought. And the benefits to that would be you would have a dome stadium. You would be eligible for bigger events. You could get a WrestleMania. You can get a Super Bowl. You can get a SummerSlam. You can get a Taylor Swift concert, or maybe a Beyonce concert, right? All of those things kind of missed the Cleveland Browns stadium when they were available options for the city of Cleveland to have. So maybe that makes more sense. Now, the difference would be probably the money up front for the Haslams would be much more expensive, right? You're talking about $1.5 to $2 billion, and you're probably getting less help from the county. So it is what it is. Or maybe you do get more help from the county, but less help from the city. Either way, it's going to be something that the Haslams have to seriously consider. I don't think they're trying to use leverage because there's no point in leverage right now. The Browns cannot build a new stadium while playing at where their old stadium is. There's not enough room there to build a stadium right next door and then destroy it, turn it into a parking lot like they did with MetLife. You have to either build a new stadium where the Browns are in Lake Erie if you wanted a new stadium, and then move the team for a couple of years to like Columbus or Canton while you built that new stadium. Or you can build a new stadium across from the airport and then play in Cleveland Browns Stadium in 2028 and then move there after your lease is up. Or you can renovate Cleveland Browns Stadium heavily to try to get it up there, but that's probably the most expensive and the least cost effective way to go about it. So I don't think the heavy renovation is going to be the way to go unless the number goes down significantly. And I don't think there's a number that can go down to where that would make sense for the Haslams, unless like they really, really think that the lakefront development would be something that would be super profitable for them. But honestly, to me, I think it makes more sense for everybody involved if the Browns move that stadium, will start to play across from Hopkins International, and they built that new stadium. They could build a dome, make it state of the art, whatever the hell they want to do with it, and do that. And then the city can destroy that stadium, Cleveland Browns Stadium, and then develop the lakefront, put some housing there, some apartment buildings, some shops, some grocery stores, and like develop that as like another nice area to be in. I think that would be best for both, right? So you can kind of have a benefit for both and make use of that land. What I don't want to see is for the team to move the stadium to that airport location, and then the city and the Browns to do absolutely nothing with the old stadium location, which is next to the Great Lakes Science Center and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, please do something with that area that's productive. I don't want to see that become a vacant lot right on prime lakefront real estate. So that's really my thoughts on that whole thing. But yeah, we'll see what they do. Q, do you think FLACCO winning comeback player to me means it's almost impossible to re-sign him because of the offers others might give him? I don't think. Look, the Browns got rid of Alex Van Pelt, Stump Mitchell, and TC Carlson because they wanted to move on from an older offensive style. I don't think it would make sense, if that's the direction you're trying to move in with the team, to bring back Joe Flacco. So I'll just put that one out there. If they're trying to advance the offense and do things that are less familiar for Joe Flacco, when does it start to make less sense to bring back Joe Flacco? If they're moving it towards, DeShaun and DTR skill sets. Nappy FPV says, since Devin Hester just got into the Hall of Fame, do you think Josh Cribbs has a chance? I think Josh Cribbs should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think that Josh Cribbs was a better special teamer than Devin Hester. I think Devin Hester is the greatest special teamer of all time. And look, Josh Cribbs is certainly in the conversation, but I think it's Devin Hester all the way. That being said, should Josh Cribbs be in the Hall of Fame? I mean, the Hall of Fame is really iffy about certain position groups, and I don't think it should be. Like, it shouldn't be this hard for a guard to get into the Hall of Fame. It shouldn't be that hard for a kick returner to get into the Hall of Fame, just as long as you designate them a kick returner, right? We do this with all pro selections. We do this with Pro Bowl selections. If you think that somebody's a Hall of Fame special teamer, why not, right? I don't want to get crazy here and put like long snappers into the Hall of Fame or something like that. I think that would start to dilute it. But, kickers, sure, why not? Punters, that's a different conversation, a little bit more difficult because they don't put up points. But, kickers, kick returners, punt returners, yeah, I think they should be eligible for the Hall of Fame. If we're asking ourselves if Josh Cribbs had a Hall of Fame career as a special teamer, he most certainly did. Iceman the Boss says, given the lack of wide receiver development outside of 1 year of Donovan Peoples-Jones, why do you think OShea is still in the staff? I've seen a lot of people make a huge point, and I guess somebody is really beating the drum for Chad OShea to get fired in the media. I would just say this. I don't know what Chad OShea's responsibilities were. I don't know if he was responsible for the things that people are tasking him to be responsible for. And I don't know how much of what he was doing was because he was told to do things a certain way with the previous offensive coordinator, and that might be different. The Browns seem to think he's worthwhile to keep on the staff, so we'll see. But also, I think this amount of attention on a wide receiver coach is a bit much. At the end of the day, Chad OShea is going to be as good as the offensive coordinator and Kevin Stefanski allow him to be or make him be. I don't think that that's going to be something that tanks your season either way. And I think we're kind of over discussing it because at the end of the day, he is just a wide receivers coach. Wes, the Browns fan, says these awards and the amounts they were awarded feels like a bigger and more impactful than normal. Do you think this will motivate the guys to go for it all next year with the new staff and attempt a deep Super Bowl run? It better. It better. This is not the end goal. It's not the end goal to just get some nice awards and make the playoffs. They should want to get everything that they can get, and they have the potential to win a Super Bowl. So they should want to live up to that potential. You only get to be on teams like that every so often. Some guys go their whole career without being on teams that have that potential. So yeah, of course. David says, what are your expectations for offensive line development with the new hire? Do you expect the Browns to continue to emphasize the offensive line? Yeah, of course. Of course. And are they gearing towards DeShaun Watson's strength? We'll see. But I would have to imagine, anything that you do has to do with making sure that you're getting the best out of DeShaun because he's your quarterback. You always want to work towards getting the best out of him. Where should our expectations be with Watson, and how long should we give him to reach those expectations? He obviously hasn't played in that many games over the last 3 seasons, but this year, whenever he was on the field, minus the Pittsburgh and Indy games, he looked pretty good. Assuming he and the team stay healthy, knock on wood, is it fair to assume the new look offense can help him get back to playing as one of the better quarterbacks in the league? And if he doesn't in this last year, is this his last year to prove it, or will they ride it out with this contract? Well, that's kind of an interesting question, right? So if DeShaun Watson has a bad year this year, I don't know if they just completely try to pull the cord and move on from him, but I do know that you will start to see the tea leaves form that they are moving on from him, right? They'll be much more interested in quarterbacks. They will be much more interested in backup solutions and all of this, and you'll start to see the tea leaves of the Browns making the moves to make it possible to get off DeShaun Watson when they feel like it's necessary to get off DeShaun Watson, if they feel like that is the case. Right now, they feel like DeShaun Watson's still pretty good in that they just need to tighten the screws around him. But yeah, if he stinks next year, then it will start to be obvious that they're moving on. I mean, this happened with Baker Mayfield as well, where the Browns decided, okay, gave him enough chances, we got to do something else. And I expect that same playbook to be in there for DeShaun Watson, albeit a little bit more difficult to pull off given that he has a much stronger contract than Baker Mayfield had at the time. Now, is it fair to assume the New York offense can get him back to being one of the better quarterbacks of the league? To me, personally, I'm less concerned about DeShaun Watson playing well and more concerned about DeShaun Watson staying healthy. I think if he is healthy, he will be able to play at a high enough level for this team to be close to reaching their goals. It's just about if he can stay healthy, because I thought he put out a relatively solid body of work when he was out there this year. CCG Cement says the Browns are clearly attempting to overhaul the offensive staff around the needs of Watson. How concerned are you that the focus could be too much on the pass game and dumb down to get basic? I don't think that's the case at all. I think they've actually made some moves to make their run game a little bit more complicated than it was beforehand. So if that's your concern, I think I think they'll be fine. But thank you guys for asking these questions. You guys have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.